or webinar. And so this will be our final webinar for this winter 2021 series. And our moderator for this seminar is Associate Professor Zeynep Chulfaz from Me2 Chemical Engineering. I will pass the floor over to her.
Thank you, Dick. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Isabel Oller from CEMAT, Spain, from the Plataforma Solar de Almería. She has a PhD from chemical engineering from the University of Almería from 2008. And from then on, she had a great career in the Plataforma Solar. She has more than 15 years experience in industrial and urban wastewater treatment and disinfection and reuse. She has expertise in advanced oxidation processes, both with and without solar energy and their combination with more conventional technologies, with physical chemical pretreatments, advanced biological treatments, membrane systems, and so on. She has been part of more than 20 R&D projects, both in national and European level. She's co-author of 129 publications, more than 150 contributions in different congresses and symposiums with an H index of 40. And she'll be talking about water, energy, food nexus in industrial and urban wastewater recovery, which is a very exciting topic, and we're curious to hear what she has to say. So the floor is yours, Isabel.
So thank you very much, Zeynep and Derek, for your kind introduction. I'm going to share the screen. Let's see if we can see the, okay. So just let me know if you can see the screen. Perfect, thank you. So as I was saying, thank you very much. I thank a lot. For me, it's a pleasure being close in this this webinar series from ODAKtr. It's a pity I cannot do it in person. We were saying, but I hope I could explain you a few things of our applications of solar energy technologies, which are maybe quite different from CST or from concentrating systems. So I'm Isabel Oller. I'm the head of solar water treatment unit at PSA in the southeast of Spain. And as Zeynep said, I would like to speak to you about the water energy food nexus in industrial and urban wastewater recovery. So just for those of you that know PSA, just to give you a brief introduction on who we are. So PSA is a dependency of CEMAT. It's a European large scientific installation, and is the largest and most complete research and development center in the world devoted to solar thermal concentrating systems and photochemical processes. And also is considered a singular science and technology infrastructure in Spain. The main goal of PSA is the research and development in potential industrial applications of concentrated solar thermal energy and solar photochemistry. And we are distributed over 100 hectares in the Tabernas Desert, which is in Almería, in the southeast of Spain. So here you can see an aerial picture of our facilities. The important thing, as you can see, is that we are a public research institution that it's in the middle between laboratory scale experiments or research and applications and pre-industrial scale of the solar technology. So this is why our facilities are so big, because we try to go and to transfer the technology and to be in the middle of both scales. Here you can see all our facilities. We have central receiver technologies. We have several parabolic dishes. We have several parabolic trough collectors and technologies, the linear Fresnel collector, the solar furnaces, the water desalination part, and we have the water purification, which is our part and in which I will focus in the next minutes in my talk, and the energy efficiency in buildings. So going and focusing in our unit, we are the solar treatment of water research unit at PSA. Here you can see a picture of part of our facilities. They are also pilot scale facilities, but of course, compared to the big ones dedicated to CST, are a bit different, and I will explain you afterwards what are the differences between these solar photoreactors and the CST common photoreactors and the parabolic trough collectors. So just to give you a brief lines of what are our water purification and solar photochemical research lines. We deal with solar photocatalytic and photochemical processes for tertiary treatments for removal of microcontaminants and pathogens from urban wastewater. We also try to integrate advanced oxidation processes with other treatment technologies, conventional or advanced, for the remediation of industrial wastewater and the elimination of hazardous pollutants and pathogens. Of course, we always try to give the proper solution to reduce the operating costs and be highly efficient in the elimination of contaminants. We assess also the photocatalytic efficiency of new materials under real solar light with our CPC photoreactors. We also deal with the solar photocatalytic generation of hydrogen using visible light active materials under pilot scale reactor testing. We use also solar photocatalytic and photochemical processes for water disinfection. And we try to develop, test, and assess new concepts of solar photoreactors, either for water decontamination or water disinfection for different end purposes. Would be water reclamation and reuse, mainly in irrigations, as we are in the southeast of Spain, so we have a big problem on water scarcity, and we have a big industry and economical activity in agriculture. So going through the outline of my talk, and I would like to give you some introduction and motivation on the climate change and the water energy food nexus. I would like also to explain you briefly which are the methodologies from the chemical and microbiological point of view that are available for the monitoring of these treatment technologies, water treatment technologies. I will speak about the pilot plants also. I will explain you which are the main characteristics of these solar photoreactors, which are different, as I told you, from the CST. I would like also to explain you a little bit about the nutrient recovery by using membrane distillation systems. I will give you some case studies also and some key messages. So just speaking about something that all of us know, which is the climate change and the effect it has on the water energy nexus. These both systems are highly interdependent, and we know that we use water for energy, for the electricity generation, for oil and gas, even for the obtention of renewable energy. And we also use energy for water because we need to pump water, we need energy for doing the water treatment technologies. We need also to heat and cool in the industry, and even, of course, we have to deliver, we have to transport the water for the cooking, for showering, for cleaning at household level. So it's a high interdependency between both water and energy. And it is also clear that the water problems that we are facing nowadays because of climate change can be significantly reduced if energy is available. But of course, if we have also problems on energy, then the situation is getting even more complicated. But it's also highly interesting to observe that there are clear coincidences in the existence of these water problems in normally arid and semi-arid zones in the world. And you can see them here in the map in yellow. And there is a great coincidence on having also a great and abundant availability of solar radiation. So this is our aim at PSA and in our research unit, trying to take advantage of those solar energy renewable source for trying to apply these different water treatment technologies. Just going deeper into the problem, as all of you knows, and the FAO also states, we only have available like around 39% of the water in the world for human uses. And this is something equally to 16,000 liters per person, but we all know that this water is very unevenly distributed geographically. So for instance, in Iceland, and this is a good example here, it could have a lot of liters of water available per person, but then in Kuwait they only have 16, so the distribution is of course not even. What about water withdrawal? It is also highly interesting to see that this water that it's available for our usage, it's mainly used for agriculture, because 69% is used for agriculture and the other for industries. So it is clear that water, energy and food must be jointly, not only water and energy. Indeed, we must be conscious that this climate change problem and the water scarcity and bad quality of water in the north of Europe is getting even worse due to the big increase of population. And of course, this increase of population is making us to require more food for this new population. So here you can see that I leave you a few lines on what is important in the water, energy, food nexus. So we know that already that we cannot divide these 3 points, these 3 systems. So as I told you, it's important to know that agriculture consumes almost 70% of the fresh water used worldwide. It is also important to know that more than 40% of the worldwide population will live in 2050 in severe hydric stress zones. As I told you, there is a lot of usage also of water for energy production, and it is expected to increase by 2035 in 20%. And so the consumption will increase in 85% in water. It is also important to know that the consumption of water by humans is not only for direct consumption or energy, but the production of food requires quite important amount of water. For instance, here we have an example that we need 3,000 to 5,000 liters of water to produce only 1 kilo of rice. So this is a huge important problem that I know that it's quite known by you and by all the people that as us in Spain lives in several zones that in which the water scarcity is actually a problem. And of course, the importance when you face this water scarcity and the bad quality of water is trying to obtain alternative water sources. And in this case, it is important to take into account that the advanced analytical tools have put it into the table the presence of a high amount of contaminants that were not known before, because we were not able to measure them, because they are contaminants that are present in a very low concentration in superficial waters, in natural waters, but they are present in nanograms or micrograms per liter. And they are known as contaminants of emerging concern. They are antibiotics, they are, well, now all of you have heard about the PFAS and PFOS, this kind of products that and contaminants that are being accumulated in the water bodies in a very low concentration, but they have sometimes a known effect clearly on the environment, or now we know that the accumulative effect of them are quite bad for the environment. So of course, not only from the environmental point of view, but if we want to reuse some waters, surface water, or even waters coming from the municipal wastewater treatment plant, we have to take into account the presence of these emerging contaminants that are in a very low concentration. But apart from the chemical contamination, we must take into account that we have also microbial contamination. We have in this water bacteria, viruses, protozoa, fungi. But in the last years, apart of that, we know that we have antibiotic-resistant bacteria and antibiotic-resistant genes that are appearing in our water bodies due to the presence of a high amount of antibiotics coming from the human consumption. of course, these are the previous one were focused on the urban wastewater or the natural water bodies, but of course we have also a huge water footprint coming from the industrial activities. And of course, now the sense is that the industries want also to recover their wastewater for being reused in their own industrial processes, trying to avoid the high consumption of fresh water. And so the problems here is that normally these industrial wastewater are highly contaminated, and they have an accumulation of persistent compounds like pesticides or pharmaceuticals that are not which the conventional wastewater treatment plants are not able to treat by conventional activated sludge systems. So this is a problem of these industrial processes. There are some industries that they have their own biological processes for trying to treat their wastewater before being discharged to the urban wastewater, to the municipal one. Indeed, this is due to the highly toxic or biorecalcitrant presence of contaminants inside industrial wastewaters. So here the important thing is to control the processes and of course we need to find alternative treatments, and we have always to take into account the integration of technologies. In this sense, the idea is always in the industrial processes also trying to combine biological treatments with chemical oxidation processes, trying to reduce the biorecalcitrance and the toxicity of the wastewater. In our case, of course, as maybe all of you know, we have the chemical advanced oxidation processes known as advanced oxidation processes because they produce highly oxidant radicals. These processes are performed in ambient temperature and pressure, and they produce the highly powerful hydroxyl radicals that are non-selective radicals that can attack almost every contaminant, every molecule, and every pathogen or membrane of a microorganism. And normally in the case of contaminants, they can also yield till water and CO2. So they are highly powerful. But from the point of view of trying to use renewable energies, and of course, thinking on what I was telling you about the presence of the presence of high solar energy sources when we have also water scarcity, our idea is trying to use those advanced oxidation processes that can be powered by solar energy. In this case, we can have heterogeneous photocatalysis with different photocatalysts. Normally, of course, titanium dioxide is highly known. We can use phenton and photophenton processes, which is the reaction between hydrogen peroxide and iron for the production of hydroxyl radicals. We can have also other phenton processes carried out at a neutral pH by using iron complexes for maintaining iron in solution. In the case of disinfection, we have also highly powerful use of UVA solar energy with hydrogen peroxide. So these are more or less the systems that we are working on, trying to take advantage of solar energy, trying to avoid the consumption of electrical energy from lamps. In this slide, I will like only to summarize you with which are the technologies that we have available at PSA for treating, and which is maybe the treatment line that we can follow depending on the kind of wastewater we have. For instance, when we have municipal wastewater treatment plant effluents, which contains micropollutants of what I told you to, it's called contaminants of emerging concern. Normally, after the outlet of the secondary biological treatment that is available in a conventional wastewater treatment plant, what we do is a normal filtration in an activated carbon filter or sand filter, depending. We have also microfiltration, and afterwards, what we normally try to do or to propose is to pre-concentrate the effluent in, for instance, nanofiltration pilot plant. So we can try to reduce the total volume to be treated, and we can pre-concentrate the contaminants in the concentrated stream. So we have a high quality permeate stream that we can reuse, maybe in an irrigation process, a crops irrigation, and then we have a concentration, rejection stream with a high concentration of microcontaminants that can be treated in a tertiary treatment by an advanced oxidation processes. In this case, we have available our CPC photoreactors for doing photophantom processes. We have also electrophotophantone systems at pilot plant scale. We have also ozonation and UV pilot plants. These are commercial systems, so we use that for comparison, but also trying to perform advanced oxidation processes with ozonation by increasing pH or by using catalytic ozonation or by combining with solar energy. And in the case of UV pilot plants, we compare and we try also to see what is the effect and the difference when we use UV peroxide with lamps, and also when we use UV with chlorine, which is highly used for disinfection. Afterwards, the idea is also recovering the treated wastewater and with a very good characteristics for being reused again in crops, in the irrigation of crops, for instance. In the case we have an industrial wastewater which is non-biodegradable or it's toxic. In that case, then the scenario is completely different, because if it is toxic and it's non-biodegradable, we cannot face a biological treatment first. So what we need first is, of course, normally we think on a physical-chemical pretreatment, which is normally used in landfill leachates or this kind of industrial wastewater. And afterwards, we try an oxidation system for reducing toxicity, improving biodegradability enough to be combined with a biological treatment, which is always the cheapest treatment technology to be applied. After that, then we can maybe try to reuse or to use the effluent of the biological treatment as in the same way as we use the effluent of a municipal wastewater treatment plant, by being pre-concentrated in a nanofiltration system or polishing, just to obtain a high quality permeate to be reused in crops irrigation, for instance. And then the concentration stream, the rejection stream, can be again treated by a tertiary treatment. So let's say that this slide maybe summarize more or less which are the different treatment strategies that we can follow depending on the kind of wastewater we have and the physical-chemical characteristic of each wastewater we are facing. Regarding the methodology, of course, if we want to measure the efficiency of the water treatment technologies, we have the traditional measurement of analytics of pH, dissolved organic carbon, chemical oxygen demands, the measurement of ionic content, total nitrogen. But we have also these highly advanced techniques that I was speaking about before, that with them we were able to determine and to quantify the presence of contaminants of emerging concern in the water bodies. But we can do a lot of things with liquid chromatography, coupled with mass spectrometry and with high resolution mass spectrometry, because we can follow target contaminants, but we can also try to determine and to quantify non-target contaminants. So we can even discover which are the contaminants that are in our wastewater, and we can even focus directly in the treatment of those contaminants for improving the biodegradability of the whole wastewater, for instance. But of course, the chemical analytical methodologies and procedures are not the only one that we have to take into account, because if we want to reuse the wastewater, the treated wastewater, then we have to take into account always toxicology tests and microbiological tests. So the toxicology tests are always, we have to use different tests. We can use respirometric tests by using activated sludge directly. We can use virofishery, artemia, daphnia. But what is important to know is that we must do not only acute toxicity tests, but we have to do chronic toxicity tests when we deal with microcontaminants, because they get accumulated in the environment, so they can show a long-term effect on the environment. And so if we want to reuse the wastewater, we have to check that. In the case of the microbiological technologies, we have the traditional measurement to know which are the microorganisms that are present in our water sample. with plate counting, the optical microscopy, and the DNA extraction. But we also have these advanced techniques that I'm going to show you after, which we all know now because of the pandemic, which is the PCR techniques based on the evaluation of the DNA of a specific microorganisms. So just to show you more or less how it works, I don't want to go deeply on this, but if you have, for instance, a biological treatment that is especially scale up or perform for a specific industrial wastewater, then you can see which are the specific microorganisms that can deal and can treat your specific industrial wastewater. And for that, we have to do DNA analysis by PCR to check which are exactly the microorganisms that we have inside and that are able to eliminate specific microcontaminants or contaminants that we have inside our wastewater. Maybe, of course, it's highly important for industrial wastewater. In the case of toxicity analysis, I told you this is only the example of the Daphnia process. In the Daphnia test, we can do acute toxicity, but we can do also chronic toxicity. We can do 24 to 38 hours acute toxicity, or we can do 72 hours of chronic toxicity. So this is a quite complete toxicity test that is very good to be used, but don't forget that it's important not to use only one micro toxicity test, because this kind of systems have a different sensitivity to different wastewater. So it's important to test what is happening with different microorganisms and different toxicity tests. Of course, if we want to reuse the wastewater in crops irrigation, for instance, then we need phytotoxicity analysis to check what is happening and how the cultures can be affected by the wastewater or by some of the microcontaminants that can be left in the wastewater. So these are highly easy to perform tests, because they are kits that are highly easily with a very low necessity of consumables. So it's quite important to do them. Of course, in the case of advanced analytical determination, this is a highly costly equipment and highly costly analysis, because the idea is to use the highly powerful liquid chromatography coupled with mass spectrometry to determine target contaminants like antibiotic, pesticide, pharmaceuticals, but also for determining the non-target contaminants, as I told you. So going through the pilot plans that I think maybe it's more interesting for all of you, just to show you which are because as I told you, the solar photoreactors that we perform for doing the wastewater treatment technology are quite different from the CST CST technology and the photoreactors, because we normally use the UV radiation. So we use the photons of the solar radiation. We don't use the thermal part of the radiation. So for our solar photoreactors design, we need an efficient distribution of the UV. Of course, we need the materials to be pH resistant and highly chemical stability, because we are dealing with a lot of different wastewaters, industrial wastewater that can be highly corrosive or highly contaminant and toxic and with very low pH values, and urban wastewater. Of course, we need a turbulent flow, because when we work with heterogeneous systems or even homogeneous systems, we need the system and the photoreactor were agitated always, and homogenation, as I say here. It must be resistant to temperatures, because though we don't concentrate the radiation, and so we don't attain very high temperatures, but of course we are in summer time, for instance, we can attain high temperatures around 50 or 55 degrees in the system. They must be robust and resistant to the environmental conditions, of course, easy handling, and of course low operational cost. Modular systems are always desirable, and if it is possible, always cheap and accessible. So which are the photoreactors that we normally use? These are the compound parabolic collectors. I hope you have been known about them before. The thing is that before explaining you a little bit more how they work, it's important to speak about the materials, as I told you. So the traditional silver based mirrors that are normally used in collectors and are very good high reflectivity for the visible part of the solar spectrum is not very good for our applications because they don't reflect the wavelength range between 300 and 400 the wavelength required for solar photophantom and solar photocatalytic reactors. So the best option for us is trying to use aluminum. And of course, this material is highly effective for the ultraviolet radiation, but it must be protected by a layer of anodizing layer with oxide layer for being protected also. So this is the reflector that we use with aluminum. And regarding the photoreactor itself, what we use for highly transmittivity and highly resistant to radiation is borosilicate tubes. Of course, as you can see here in the graphic, quartz is the best material, but of course it's very, very expensive. So what we use better is Pyrex, what is also not cheap, but it's highly durable and it transmits all the UV radiation that we require in our reactions. So going deeper till the compound parabolic collectors, these are the most studied collectors for advanced oxidation processes applications with solar energy. And they are based on these compound parabolic collectors that are static collectors and with a surface following an involute, as you can see here, around a cylindrical tube, which is the borosilicate tube. And it's designed with a concentration factor of 1. So it doesn't concentrate the solar radiation. And the radiation is reflected by the CPC, and it is distributed all around the entire circumference. And so normally the entire circumference is illuminated. And the good thing of this photoreactor is that they can use efficient use of direct and diffuse radiation, because in our case, as we use the UV radiation, for us, if we have a cloudy day, it's also could be also a good day because we use the diffuse radiation coming in that days. It is also important to say that these CPC reactors don't have solar tracking. So the good thing of the double parabola here is that wherever is the situation of the sun, we can try to redirect the sunbeams into the entire circumference. So trying to have the borosilicate tube illuminated as much as possible along the day. And of course, we have here high optical and efficiency also, and a high quantum yield efficiency. So you can have more information in some of the references I leave you below. But these are the traditional CPC photoreactors that are being used for wastewater applications. And indeed, we have going through a demo scale with them. I put here you several pictures of the construction of these CPC photoreactors in demo scale. Of course, in our case, as we don't have sun tracking, we have to design the different rows with the proper separation to avoid the shadow between the modules. And for instance, here you have how we calculate the solar collector area we require. For that, we need the energy, the accumulated UV energy we require for attaining our target, that normally is the elimination of microcontaminants and the inactivation of pathogens. And also, in this case, this is the complete picture of one of the demo sites, which was 150 square meters, and the total volume of the reactor was more than 1 cubic meter. And here we have different individual CPC modules with 20 parallel tubes, and each module has something like around 3 square meters per module of illuminated surface. So this is an example. We also installed another one in a pharmaceutical company in the southeast of Spain called the ESAM Diretil in the frame of another European project. So these are photoreactors that have already gone through the demo scale. And But there is an important thing that we have discovered in the last years is that of course these CPC photoreactors are very well applied, but it depends on the kind of wastewater you have. Because if you have a highly polluted effluent or an industrial effluent with a high concentration of contaminants, then you need a high concentration of radicals, a high amount of radicals to eliminate, to mineralize even some of the contaminants to allow increase the biodegradability and reduce toxicity. So finally, you need a high amount of accumulated UV radiation or treatment time for attaining the complete the improved biodegradability or the complete mineralization of the wastewater. But in the case of the urban wastewater treatment plant effluents, which are contaminated by micropollutants, as I told you, which are micrograms per liter of concentration, then the amount of the hydroxyl radicals we require are quite less, because they are in a very low concentration. It's quite clean water. So the aim is not to mineralize. The aim is not to abate, to eliminate the organic carbon. It's only to eliminate the parent compound that is giving the toxicity. Or the chronic toxicity. So what we have observed is that with the CPC photoreactor, we can have an irradiancy limitation. So we have observed that from micropollutant removal, there is a photosaturation. So the process is better to be carried out in a wider optical length. So we will require wider optical lengths for receiving as much radiation as possible for the elimination of these micropollutants and avoid the limitation, the photosaturation. So in that case, what we have been developing in the last years in the collaboration with the University of Almeria is the use of the raceway pump reactors that are traditionally used for microalgal mass cultures. And of course, in the University of Almeria, they are quite experts on this kind of microalgae culture and this kind of reactors. But these are, as you can see, open reactors. So we can use them with urban wastewater, which is not highly contaminated. It's almost clean water with a very low concentration of micropollutants. And the idea is that this kind of reactors, are made with very low cost materials. And indeed, the construction cost could be even less than 10 euros per square meter. So the good point of these photoreactors is that they can receive, and they are not accumulated. They have a very wider optical, and they can receive as much as possible the irradiance and the UVA part of the solar spectrum. So we get better efficiencies with this kind of photoreactors, and even they are lower expenses. So that's a good option for the future. So just to go directly to these good applications of wastewater treatment and in this case, membrane distillation systems. Just to remember you that the membrane distillation is this evaporative process in which the water vapor is the driving force. So you can separate the salt from the water phase in the case of the desalination processes, but they can be also used for recovery of some of the nutrients. For instance, in the case of ammonia, if you have the water with a high concentration of ammonia and you increase the pH, you can have the pass through the membrane, and you can have another stream with a high concentration of sulfuric acid that can be directly used as fertilizer if you mix with another kind of waters. So there are a lot of work being done at lab scale of recovery of ammonia with membrane distillation systems and with different membranes. But in this case, there's a very big, we have done several tests on that, and we have had a very good recoveries, but I must say that this percentage of recovery of ammonia is very high at lab scale, but the important problem comes when you go through from the lab scale to the pilot scale. So now we are doing tests at a pilot scale in collaboration with our colleagues of the desalination research unit at PSA, and I must say that the recovery is much lower. So there are a lot of things that must be still investigated on this point. And just to finish with some case studies, just to let you have a big, broad idea of how this technology is used actually. So for instance, in the case, I would like to give you a case of an industrial wastewater, which could be landfill leachate, as I told you before. The thing is trying to obtain a good remediation strategy. And for that, when we are speaking of industrial wastewater, it's always the best is always the integration of technologies, as I told you. So normally what you do is a physical chemical pretreatment. In this case, we did a physical chemical pretreatment with ferric chloride. So we could eliminate and have a good coagulation flocculation. So we eliminate a percentage not only of the total suspended solid, but also chemical oxidant demand and the sulfur organic carbon. Afterwards, as the effluent was still toxic, of course, and had lower biodegradability, we did the solar photophantom process in the CPC photoreactors, and we obtained, with a consumption of 1.8 gram per liter of hydrogen peroxide, we reduced toxicity till around 13, and we improved biodegradability to a point enough, because as soon as it is higher than 0.3, we can perform a biological treatment. So we did afterwards a biological treatment. And what we did here is the application of the PCR system I told you to determine which were the bacteria that we had in the system that were doing the work. And we observed that it was increasing the generation of the ammonia oxidizing bacteria. So we were performing a very good nitrification process. And we were able also to evaluate what was the change on microorganisms from the conventional activated sludge in a municipal wastewater treatment plant to this biological treatment that was adapted specifically for this landfill leachate effluent. So we observed there that we have a lot of different new microorganisms that were doing the work, and we observed that the proteobacteria was the higher amount of new microorganism that we created in the new advanced oxidation biological treatment. Indeed, we also performed some advanced analytical processes, and we observed that we were reducing the concentration of microcontaminants along the treatment chain. In the case of the municipal wastewater treatment plant effluents, just to give you a brief example, it's an example of which are the microcontaminants that we can find in the effluent of a municipal wastewater treatment plant, and which are the concentrations that we can find in the outlet. As you can see, they are very, very low, but there are a lot of different microcontaminants. We have been done different works on that for the elimination of them by applying solar photophantom, ozonation. Indeed, we did also the comparison between solar photophantons and solar heterogeneous photocatalysis with titanium dioxide. Of course, the efficiency was always better by solar photophantom. Here we can see the different microcontaminants and their reduction with the treatment time. And even with the ozonation, we observed also a good reduction. So indeed, we did the comparison on the costs of the different technologies, because ozonation is already available in the market, and we can see that it is the solar photophantom process can compete quite well with ozonation in terms also of the economics. We can also apply solar photoelectrophantom as tertiary treatment. As you can observe here, we have a simulated, as I told you, in this case, we have a simulated nanofiltration membrane concentrate coming from the outlet of a municipal wastewater treatment plant. So this concentrate was treated by electrophotophantome treatment, and by using well, these are the anode and cathode, so we could do direct oxidation in the anode, and we can do also the online generation of hydrogen peroxide in situ for doing solar photophantom. The thing is, it's curious because if you also want to combine with solar energy, just to give you the conclusion, what we observe is that sometimes only the use of anodic oxidation, so the direct oxidation of the microcontaminants in the anodic part with the carbon anodic part, and combined with solar energy, could be highly efficient and without the necessity of the generation online of hydrogen peroxide. I want also to give you just a brief introduction on something that nowadays is being used a lot, which is not only the use of conventional photophantom by using hydrogen peroxide, but also using persulfate as oxidant reagent. And it's quite interesting also to compare both oxidation systems, but always please do toxicity tests afterwards, just to decide which is the best treatment strategy, not only based on the technical efficiency, but also in the toxicity results, and also, of course, in the economics finally. So in this case, we did the toxicity with Daphne magna, but also, of course, phytotoxicity, because our aim was trying to reuse the water in crops irrigation. And finally, I would like only to draw your attention in the end of the process when we want to reuse the wastewater in crops irrigation. It is why it is so important to take care about the contaminants of emerging concern and organic microcontaminants that you can find in the effluent when you are going to reuse in crops irrigation the wastewater. Because if you have a lot of pharmaceuticals inside, depending on the type of crop you are irrigating, you can have an important cross-contamination going through the soil to the leaves and to the fruit. And here you can see the potential of crops contamination depending on the fruit, on the type of crop you are irrigating. For instance, when we do this kind of tests to check the feasibility of reusing the wastewater, treated wastewater on crops irrigation, we use lettuce because it is one of the crops that can absorb a lot of microcontaminants after reusing. And the thing is that when we want to reuse in crops irrigation, this is a kind of industry fresh cut. It's a fourth line of the industry of food, in which you have, for instance, the lettuce directly to be consumed. So the problem in this case is the disinfection and also the elimination of contaminants of emerging concern. We did some experiments by using, in this case, hydrogen peroxide and solar, because it's highly powerful, this system for disinfection. But in the case of eliminating also at the same time the microcontaminants, we can use this iron complex with a complexing agent. In this case, we have this one, to maintain iron in solution when we are speaking on neutral pH and to avoid the precipitation of iron. So we obtain the elimination of contaminants, but we obtain the complete inactivation of pathogens, but then we still observe a few concentration of microcontaminants in the water. So when we irrigated the lettuce or the radish, we observed that depending on the treatment you apply, you could have still some microcontaminants inside. So it's important to be careful. So just to finish more or less on time, I would like to leave you here a few key messages, just to let you have a brief summary on that. Of course, it is not only a problem of water scarcity, but we must take into account that in the north of Europe that they have a lot amount of water, but it's a bad quality. The problem is the bad quality of water. It is important to know that also that there are a lot of different advanced oxidation processes that we can use for different purposes, either for tertiary treatment of an elimination of microcontaminants present in the effluent of a municipal wastewater treatment plant, or for improving the biodegradability of industrial wastewater. But always we must do a specific test to check what is the best option depending on the different kind of wastewater. Of course, the advanced microbiological and analytical tools can be applied for the evaluation also of industrial wastewater treatments. And the most important thing is they apply, if you apply them, you can design also and perform a better biological and also chemical process for destroy and for reduce the costs from the operating point of view. And of course, the water quality parameters must be monitored always because the contaminant transfer to crops could occur, and we always must give a safe reuse of the wastewater, of the treated wastewater. So this is only to give thanks to our group. This is our solar treatment of water group. As you see, we are quite maintaining the safe distance between us because it is a recent picture. And we normally, well, we have Professor Sixto Marato here, I'm here, and we have also some senior some postdoc, another senior contracts, some technicians, and of course we have always some PhD students and visitors. So thank you very much for your attention. It has been a pleasure.
Isabel, thank you very much for this exciting, comprehensive talk with a lot of exciting ideas. Now, in the chat, I have the first question. We didn't announce it in the beginning, so you could write your questions in the chat during the talk, but you can also write them here. So the first question is, can you discuss the technology readiness levels of your activities and the current commercial uptake of these technologies?
Yeah, the TRL of all of them, I can say, of course, we are not speaking about ozonation because it's commercially already. UV is already commercial. But in the case of all the solar photocatalytic technologies, we can say that we are in a TRL 4 to 5, depends. So what we are now is in all the proposals and projects that we are involved is that we are putting a lot of, trying to put a lot of demo sites, trying to go through this TRL 4, 5 till 7, 8, because it is always not a matter of the technology, but it is also a matter of necessity. And it is true that nowadays there is a big necessity. Of course, now the pandemic gives rise on the point of the resilience of the systems and the cities. There is a big now issue on the circular economy, the green technologies, and now it's a big demand on this kind of technology. So now we have the opportunity to go further and to go to these demo sites, because I show you these pictures of the first demo sites that we put it, and we put it them on 2008, 2009. So I mean, we have been working on demo sites a long time ago, but as the necessity were not installed in the market yet, we didn't go further. But now it seems that their interest is fixed, and we are going further now.
Thank you. So we have a thanks again for
Thank
your
you.
informative.
Thank you very much.
It was wonderful.
It's
very
too
informative,
much,
very comprehensive.
too much information in a few minutes, but it's good because you have it in the presentation, and maybe if you have more depth afterwards, you can contact me, of course.
It was clear that there's a lot of depth beyond all the slides. Now, maybe following on Derek's question on the TRLs, for the degradation, the advanced oxidation processes that are not commercial yet, which one overall do you find the most promising? Of course, I can see that it will change based on what you're trying to degrade, but based on like easy commercialization, of course, degradation efficiency, but also the possibility of producing less harmful end products or close to complete mineralization. Which do you see as more promising?
I must say that a part of the different kind of wastewaters, of course, the line is always put it between industrial and urban. Nowadays, of course, the urgent is urban wastewater, trying to recover the wastewater, reuse the wastewater, and to eliminate, as you said, these contaminants. And for that point, the technology that I will say I think is more promising now is maybe some solar photophantom or solar phantom-like processes, depending on the oxidant you use. It depends on the wastewater, with these raceway pond reactors, because they are quite easy to perform. There are a lot of experience commercially on this kind of reactors, solar reactors for microalgae cultures. So there are a lot of already done on that. It's only to change the application. So let's say that now almost all the plants that we are studying and trying to go through the market are focused on that.
Okay. And so like also does that ever change with like about the end products? Because like you might of course look at what you do to the parent compound, but I can imagine that you can just like degrade like the parent compound, but get something that is as harmful, as toxic as that as well.
This is why it's so important to measure toxicity. Indeed, of course, the measurement of these microcontaminants is quite expensive. So the problem is that with this, there is a new regulation, as all of you know, on water reuse in Europe. And this new regulation is not focusing on microcontaminants itself, although they do some suggestions, but because it's quite expensive. But if you measure toxicity and you are sure that the chronic toxicity, because acute toxicity is one thing, but chronic is the important thing. If you are sure that chronic toxicity is reduced or you don't have that chronic toxicity, then at least you can be sure that the things that you have, the intermediates that you have produced are not more toxic than the original, the parent compounds.
Yeah. So another question in the chat. Thank you for the presentation. Do you consider policy aspect in terms of pricing wastewater? Usually the reuse of treated wastewater is not highly adopted by farmers, for example, because the quality. Do you think that pricing this resource of treated wastewater will allow to ameliorate it?
Yeah, indeed, we have a good experience on that. It depends on the country, of course. But we have a great experience on that in Spain, because the southeast of Spain reuses almost 99% of the urban wastewater, the treated wastewater, and they reuse it in crops. The thing is, as I told you, the necessity and the regulation, of course. In Spain, we have a regulation of reusing wastewater, treated wastewater in crops or in another irrigation of another landscape or whatever. But now the new European regulation is even more strict. So the thing is that the necessity of water is there. So, for instance, in this southeast of Spain, they use the water because they don't have another water. So they need that. So what I think our responsibility is trying to focus on new technology that is not so expensive, like waste weapon reactors or this kind of open reactors, which is less costly, trying to give them the opportunity to have this water available with no so high price. But of course, we must understand that one of the problems on reusing of water and one of the problems of water worldwide is the price of water. And for instance, in Spain and in Europe, the water is so cheap. So as soon as you don't have water and you have to pay for the water higher prices, then it's a problem for you. But the problem is that we don't have water. So I think we must change a little bit in our minds, and it's also a hard work for all of us, but it's happening already in different countries and in different places.
Yeah, I agree. So in the meantime, while maybe other people might be thinking of their questions, I was also, it was quite interesting for me what you said about this photosaturation. So let me first see if I got that right. So when you have highly polluted water, then there's not enough irradiation. But when it's like urban wastewater, when the contaminants are very dilute, then there's not enough pollutants, so it gets photosaturated. So that brings me the idea of that you also mentioned of pre-concentrating and then treating. Did you try that as coupled to, for instance, a membrane concentration, or even can you also implement in these CPC photoreactors, maybe within the tubes, like membrane concentrators, where you get the water that's not originally concentrated, being concentrated by the membranes and then getting treated? Did you ever try? Is that possible?
That's the future for me. I mean, yeah, we have tested not just the integration in the same system, but we have tested the pre-concentration in the nanofiltration system, and then after the pre-concentration, we went to the CPC. Yeah, because then you have higher concentration. The thing is that if you don't pre-concentrate, then you can, as you said perfectly, you can lose because you don't have enough contaminants, so the radiation that doesn't found anything. So if you want, from my point of view, you want to make more efficient these kind of systems, then you have to pre-concentrate. And of course, if we could have somehow some photocatalytic membranes inside the tubes, it would be, for me, is the future. Indeed, the thing is that it's not easy, as you know perfectly, better than me, I think, to elaborate this kind of membranes that are not only because of the catalyst inside or yeah, on the membrane, but also because it's difficult to go from ultrafiltration to nanofiltration. And so if you want to retain the microcontaminants, you need nanofiltration.
Exactly.
So this kind of membranes is quite difficult to elaborate, even more with new materials, and even more if you want the materials to be photocatalytically active. So yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. So even if you don't have the photocatalytic nanofiltration membrane, even if it's like an, I don't know, a pantone or like a homogeneous oxidation, then you would need membranes that could withstand the irradiation. I guess solar irradiation is a little bit less intense, but you would need stable membranes, right?
Yeah. However, maybe the first step could be something like an integration, but not the membrane directly in the sun. So you can have some dark parts and some illuminated parts, maybe. Yeah, but I think it's a huge amount of work to be done on that.
Great. So that's food for thought for me as well. So any other questions? Yes. So another question here. In your studies, which one of the microalgae species resulted in most effective values, spirulina or chlorella? Spirulina has an antimicrobial activity according to the literature. Did you observe its antibacterial effect and its effect on your studies?
Yeah, this is I mentioned the microalgae, but this is another point of study. What I think is AGEN. I don't know, is it the name?
Yes, IGAN.
Yeah, IGAN.
Happens
okay,
to be my student.
Sorry. Perfect. The thing is that what I show you in waste weapon reactors were the culture of microalgae, but for another purposes that are not water treatment. But you are right, nowadays there are a big amount of people doing treatment of water with microalgae, and it's quite interesting. Unfortunately, it's not my expertise, so I'm quite sorry, because I know spirulina, I know chlorella, because I know from my colleagues from the University of Almeria, but I cannot give you exactly this difference. But I can put you in contact with my colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, any other questions?
We are quite on time. Huh?
Yes. So I guess if they need anything, if they have any questions further in mind, they could probably contact you.
Of course.
Thank you very much, Isabel. It was great to listen to you.
Thank you very much.
So I'd also like to thank Isabel and also for Zeynep for moderating this. So this is our final seminar from this winter ODAKtr series. I'd like to thank the European Commission for their support, mainly through the Solar Twins project, also for all of the experts from our leading partners, CMAT in Spain and DLR in Germany, who've given these very interesting seminars. I'd also like to thank the audience. When we started this, I was kind of curious to see whether or not we could sustain interest over 8 seminars. And so we've had really, really good attendance. And that was really nice to see. It's also nice that the audience has evolved and that we're pulling people from not only from throughout Turkey, but also outside of Turkey. And so right now we're discussing the potential to continue this with the webinar series in the spring, maybe starting later this March. And so we will be coming back to you with both this and also other opportunities. So again, thank you to everyone. And we hope to see you again. Bye.
Thank you, Derek, for organizing all this and bringing all of us together.